Simon Armitage, an epitaph to the crumbling Ashfield VAlley housing estate in Rochdale.
You said in your sleep we should blaze our way from that basement flat on memory lane to a place in the country we'd set our hearts on. I tipped the petrol, but they called it arson. And being my man, you carried the can for 18 months at Her Majesty's pleasure in the Strangeways Hotel and sent me this letter.
Not the ounce of snout, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the slopping out, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the landing light, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the governor's wife, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the petty cash, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the forearm smash, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the arm of the law, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the foot in the door, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the Spanish guitar, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the budgerigar, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the file in the cake, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the great escape, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the men on the roof, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the truth, the whole truth, but the smell of the cabbage. Not the 18 months, but the criminal damage. And the smell of the cabbage. And the smell of the cabbage.
Not the girl, the wife, the woman, the marriage. For my old flame, you took the blame. And I walked away. And all that remains of that burnt-out flat on memory lane are the famous last words, the nursery, the big surprise that you would plan for me, the pretty paper you would hang for me.
I was a probation officer raring to go, a recently qualified fresh-faced PO, on standby, on hold, awaiting the order, and the call-up posted me over the border to Rochdale. The 5 things I knew about Rochdale, I'll list them. A football team in the 4th Division, home of the Co-op and Cyril Smith, the pitch of Gracie Field singing Sally, Sally, pride of our alley, and a housing estate called Ashfield VAlley. A maze of a place I'd once heard said had 26 blocks labelled A to Z. A for Appleby, B for Buttermere, C for Crosshill. Get the picture? So, I was a rookie, just out of college, finding my feet out of my league, new to probation when a friend or colleague turned my head with some common knowledge. Take care when you walk in the shadow of the valley. A fist of keys and a torch would be handy, and bones for the dogs at the end of each landing. A map would be good, not to read but to shred, and drop out behind like pieces of bread, and a finger of chalk to mark out a thread. Keep to the path, whistle in the dark, don't park in the car park, and never look back. A maze of a place labelled A to Z. C for Crosshill, D for Dunblane, E for Elsdon, and so on, and so on. H for Hatfield, etc., etc., all the way through to Z for Zena. Returning again to this superstructure from a year at sea in Manchester, I picture the whole of Rochdale as a bay, and Ashfield VAlley as a cove, each block a boat, each street a landing, each window a porthole, each household a cabin. 26 blocks in this flotilla, each with a caretaker manning the tiller.
My name is Laszlo Seputi. I'm a Hungarian British citizen. I left Hungary in 1956 after the uprising, and I am the last caretaker of the valley. John Bridge gone, Scott Jimmy gone, Billy O'Brien gone, only me who's left. Been the only caretaker, live on the valley. If somebody have any problem, they come to me.
Attention all shipping, attention all shipping, to all blocks guilty of gross dereliction. At 0700 hours yesterday morning, the Met Office issued the following warning. Ashfield VAlley 1960 odd to 1990 or 91 and falling. From Prestbury P and Queensbury Q through Sandridge S to Ulverston U. Those 6 blocked are now on the rocks. For a further forecast of the second phase, watch this space. This house of cards, these Meccano apartments 30 years ago were the cat's pyjamas. So instead of putting the cart before the horse, I should trace this river back to its source. The place, perhaps a council chamber. The date, 1960 something or other.
Gentlemen! Right then, gentlemen. Matters arising. Picking some names for these blocks of housing, I've had some suggestions from Highways Department, such as Gracie Fields and Mandela Gardens, and I'm not impressed. Gents, we need an address that's neat and tidy, plain and simple. Not fancy a flash or a party political, something that folks will remember names of, but not be flummoxed or puzzled or ashamed of.
This isn't as easy as some at others. There's 26 of these rotten buggers.
26? Hey, flippin' heck. That's same as letters in alphabet. Pass me that A to Z and a pin. I'll run through sections and stick it in, and wherever it lands, whatever it falls on, that'll be name. That's what we'll call 'em.
Great idea, lad. Right up my street. I'm a great believer in keeping things neat. Folks will know where they stand with this system. So will postmen, gas board and milkmen.
Hold your horses. Hang on a sec. There's nothing here beginning with X.
That's the blow. Still not to worry, we'll pick some out at dictionary. There's only a handful. I'll run through 'em all. There's Xmas, X-ray, X the ball, xylophone, xanthus, xantic, xeric.
It's a block of flats, not a bloody spaceship.
Hey, Eureka! This'll do. It's poetry or something. Xanadu. An idyllic estate or place. And I'm quoting from Kubla Khan by S.T. Coleridge.
That's not a poem, it's from that song by Olivia Bloody Newton-John.
Hey, what about Exford? That's your best bet. It's a nice little village in Somerset, and it's more in keeping with his place name thing.
Exford begins with an E, not an X.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if we're going to split hairs...
Gentlemen, point of order. We'll take a vote. All those in favour? I make that 6. Exford it is. A to Z. I like it. I don't know why nobody else hasn't tried it. Well, if that's okay, we'll call it a day, and here's me thinking we'll be here till Christmas. Moving on then. Any other business?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to call a point of order.
Oh, don't start your bloody point of order, man. We've had it.
26 blocks in this flotilla, with just one caretaker manning the tiller, stoking the boiler, steering this fleet through a difficult passage into quieter seas. For 1,000 homes, just one captain left, splicing the main brace and hoisting the lift, scrubbing the landings and clearing the decks, the skeleton crew of the Marie Celeste. A general point I wanted to raise about spending time in an enclosed place. Whether lifts or bedsits, it's all cemented in this famous proverb I've just invented. The Jack in the Box who discovered the truth stood up for himself and hit the roof.
I came from a farming family, and just go to the garden and you pick off an apple or a pear or any type of fruit, because seldom you find a garden without any fruit trees. You perhaps know it yourself. That's the today music for the young people. They are about 20 odd years behind young music. It's the people what's making homes, not the houses. Of course they contribute to the home, the house got to be, but in actual fact it's the people what is making the homes.
Lighthouse, boathouse, houseboat, doghouse, madhouse, housekeep, full house, hot house. Hometown, household, home rule, housework, guest house, house guest, house rule, workhouse.